This is a book written by Louis Lamour. In my judgment, he is the all-time greatest writer of Westerns, bar none. At the center of the story is a range war that is taking place in a part of Texas near the border with Mexico. Like all Louis Lamour books, it's got a John Wayne-type expert gunman in it, and his name is Lance Kilkenny. I think this is his first appearance in a Louis Lamour book. I know that he reappears in some other books someplace further down the line. The story's got a couple of beautiful women in it, too. One of them is a standout. She's a saloon keeper in a kind of an outlaw hangout town down on the border. And her name is Anita Reardon. When I picked this book up, it brought to mind how often range wars seem to have formed the background for movies and TV shows that I watched in the 1950s. And the movie that absolutely jumped out at me was Shane. But the fact is that this book is nowhere near similar to Shane. Shane, if you recall, was a kind of a noble gunman, and there was a romance, or a budding romance, between him and a beautiful girl, and that seemed to be the center of the story. And of course, also you had that hero-worshipping young kid, who, if I recall correctly, was played by Brendan DeWilde. On the other hand, in this book, Kilkenny's predominant characteristic is the fact that he's rough, he's tough, and extremely good with a gun. There's a big other difference too. Shane was fighting just one rancher to help out this lady. In this book, the range war starts out as a kind of a three-sided affair. Kilkenny jumps into it to help out a friend of his who happened to form one of the three sides in this range war. Kilkenny owed this guy a huge debt, and he was prepared to do whatever it took to repay it. Now, Kilkenny is no kind of romantic hero. In fact, I'd say he's kind of an Old West Jack Reacher. Like all Louis Lamour heroes, he has a code, and if you've read any of Louis Lamour's books, you know exactly what that code is. Now, I suppose in 2023, really smart people might call this book a celebration of toxic masculinity, whatever that is. I'm not smart enough to feel that way. Instead, I think Kilkenny is pretty admirable. The story is full of action, and it's extremely readable because it moves along so quickly. Now, I gotta say that it did put a smile on my face when I saw in print what Mel Brooks called Western gibberish in his movie Blazing Saddles. Things like consarned and that's one bad hombre. I haven't heard that stuff, I think, since the 1950s. And I suppose that is a big part of what appeals to me in Louis Lamour's books. They take me back to a much simpler time. Whether it's the 1950s or the 19th century U.S. that's depicted in the book. Now, maybe that's just some kind of sappy nostalgia. Could be. On the other hand, maybe me and maybe some other people really wish that the U.S. could get back to those simpler, more straightforward times. Now, I'm not going to say that this book, The Writer of Lost Creek, is Louis Lamour's best book. It's certainly not. But the fact remains, if you want to throw your mind back to that simpler time in this country, Louis Lamour will do the trick for you. The Writer of Lost Creek is not a bad place to start if you want to give it a try. Tell you what, see you next week.